Welcome to Women Mastering Midlife, where we dive deep into the rich complexities of womanhood in our middle years. I'm your host, Victoria Byrd, a pharmacist, certified women's health coach, and your guide on this transformative journey. Whether you're navigating perimenopause, thriving in menopause, or mastering midlife's many transitions, this is your weekly dose of expert guidance, compassionate support, and a judgment-free space to explore it all. Here, we're empowering women to master midlife on their terms, reclaiming our health, our happiness, and our power. Together, we'll rewrite the narrative around this remarkable stage of life, from something to dread into a beautiful, bold transition. I'm so glad you're here. Hi there, and welcome back to Women Mastering Midlife podcast. We're talking all things this month perimenopause. In the beginning of the month, I had Dr. O'Sullivan come on and chat with us. And the next couple weeks, we're going to wrap up with a few different topics that really plague women in this phase of their lives. And one of them is sleep and the disruption to our sleep that happens in the middle of perimenopause. So today, we're talking about those 3 a.m. wake-ups, the night sweats that leave you flipping over your pillow for the cool side. I actually have a cooling pillow. I have one of the Casper memory foam cooling pillows, and it's amazing the difference between a cooling pillow and a regular pillow, but just throwing that out there. You know, you're full of anxiety and racing thoughts that show up uninvited. I'm telling you, those 3 a.m. doom drops are a real thing. Anne-Marie from Hot Flash Inc. coined them 3 a.m. doom drops, and I can't let go of that. Like, thank you for naming it, because that's exactly what it is. It's that 3 a.m. wake up, and then you're so wide awake and so plagued with the nonsensical anxiety in your brain at that time of night. So we're going to start digging into sleep, because I think that we're going to, finding out why it happens, how it's different from traditional sleep issues, and what we can do about it is really a service to all of us who are probably not in their heads thinking, yep, I don't remember the last time I had more than 4 hours, or yep, I can't fall asleep, or I can't stay asleep. And it's not just necessarily even getting up to go to the bathroom. A lot of times that's not the case. So let's get into like what exactly is going on in perimenopause and sleep, okay? So perimenopause being the time before menopause, when hormones like estrogen and progesterone start to fluctuate. So you've got estrogen all over the place, the wild ups and downs of estrogen and the steady decline of progesterone. For many women, this starts in your early to mid 40s, but some people can see it as early as their 30s. So one of the most frustrating and also earliest signs are your changes in sleep. A lot of times, sleep being controlled, or, your calming hormone progesterone putting you to sleep at night, if that's the first thing to fall off the wagon, you may not even notice it because your cycle is still normal. You may not be having hot flashes and night sweats, but your sleep is just trash and you just don't know why. So according to the Menopause Society, about 39 to 47% of perimenopausal women report sleep problems. It jumps to over 60% once you actually hit menopause. So this doesn't just go away, but it is actually something that begins to really rear its ugly head this time of our lives. So these sleep issues aren't just insomnia, and insomnia is actually a chronic sleep disruption disorder that is far more complicated than just I have a hard time sleeping. But with perimenopause and the sleep issues that are brought on by the hormone fluctuations, you're seeing middle of the night awakenings, you're seeing difficulty falling asleep, you're having anxiety and racing thoughts, you're having the night sweats, some of you. I would wake up soaking wet in the middle of the night and just be like, I'm too young for this. Why am I sweating? Like, especially if I drank that night. If I had any alcohol, it was like, oh my goodness, I need to change my pajamas. I never got to the point where I needed to change the sheets, thank goodness, but I would have to change my pajamas in the middle of the night. And then you have things like restless legs. And I will tell you, I get the weirdest feelings on the top of my feet that would just keep me up. Like I would be shaking my legs, like they itch, but they don't itch. It's that weird restless leg feeling like you can't lay still. And that is actually also something that it contributes to perimenopausal sleep disturbance. So traditional insomnia might be driven by lifestyle issues like your stress, screen time, poor routines, jet lag, changing time zones. But perimenopausal insomnia is hormonally driven. So we talk about having good sleep hygiene all the time, right? And that helps set you up for the best sleep that you can get. But even when you nail it all, the hormones driving your perimenopausal insomnia, it's not your fault. It's not your fault you can't sleep. There are things that are perpetuating it, and there are things you could do to improve it. But there's just so many things in this midlife transition that aren't our fault. It's deeply, deeply connected to that drop in progesterone. So progesterone is your chill out hormone. When you're pregnant, when I was pregnant with both my babies, I was on bed rest and I was given progesterone injections to prevent contractions, to just keep everything nice and calm and cozy, to cook the babies as long as I could. So that hormone is a naturally produced hormone in our body, and it's the first to fall off the wagon. And those slight decreases, that steady drop in progesterone, is reducing your calming, sleep-promoting hormone. So you have an estrogen fluctuation, and that's causing changes in your body temperature, right? Because estrogen affects your thermoregulatory process. So your thermostat, your internal thermostat, is very estrogen dependent. So you have the spikes and the drops in estrogen, that's messing with your body temperature and your mood regulation. So your hormones, they're this symphony conductor of your sleep cycle, okay? So if your sleep was this beautifully orchestrated piece and your hormones were the conductor, imagine that the hormones are the instruments and all of a sudden they start to improvise. You're trying to conduct this beautifully flowing, nicely planned, beautiful piece of music, and the arms of the conductor are going crazy and the tube is blowing when it's not supposed to. And all of a sudden you have percussion coming in. That's what it's like in your sleep cycle when you're in perimenopause. So one of the most common complaints I hear from the women that I coach is, I fall asleep fine, but I wake up at 2 or 3 in the morning and I can't go back to sleep. That's often linked to progesterone's decline. So there's a cortisol rhythm in your body with progesterone. So progesterone naturally declines in the evening, okay? So if you imagine that as your progesterone declines, your cortisol starts to rise in the morning to wake you up. It's a natural cycle of the day. It's part of your circadian rhythm as women. So if your progesterone is already tanking because you're in perimenopause, that drop at night is going to come even earlier, and it's going to affect your cortisol rhythm. So your cortisol starts to spike earlier in the evening than it normally would. So it causes that 3 a.m. surge of alertness, anxiety, wakefulness. So you could be wide awake at 3 a.m. just thinking or not being able to go back to sleep. You could be experiencing anxiety or alertness because your cortisol is part of that experience when you're having, if you're having a fight or flight response, cortisol is at play. So you could wake up super anxious. And then you add in dealing with hot flashes or night sweats that disturb your REM sleep. So you're like, even if you're technically asleep, you're not getting your restorative sleep. Then you add in the teenagers staying up late, your partner snoring, midlife caregiving responsibilities. There's just this chronic perfect storm for sleep disruption. I don't know a parent who doesn't share the same feeling with me that our teenagers, they tell us nothing in the car on the way home. They tell us nothing during the day. And then at 10 o'clock at night, you're getting cozy in your bed and they come and they plunk at the end and they want to tell you something. And you have to listen. That's when they need you. That's when they're processing or they're brain dumping. And all of a sudden they need to work through something. And it may not even be something they want your advice on, but they just need to talk it out loud and they need that sounding board. So of course you're going to be awake. And then sometimes they tell you things. Like I've had things that have come to me late at night and then I'm laying awake like, oh my gosh, what's going on at school? Or what's going on with this friend? Or is my daughter going to have her heart broken this week? There's so many things that come with those teenager conversations. And if you're not quite yet there, just you wait. because those happen. And if you are there and you're shaking your head like, yeah, that's totally my life, I relate. So there are some things that we can do to improve sleep. And I've already said that, we can't really fix the hormone disruptions without replacing hormones, right? So if your progesterone is naturally declining, supplementing with a bioidentical hormone like micronized progesterone, that is the same chemical structure of the progesterone that your body produces, that your ovaries produce. If you supplement that and you take it at night about an hour before bed, it'll make you kind of sleepy and it'll help your sleep. But if you're not interested in the hormones or there are contraindications to hormone therapy, there are things that we can do to set the stage. And a lot of times when I talk to women and we're going through a coaching session or we're going through a coaching program, this is one of the things that we talk about first. Sleep and stress are so life-changing when we start figuring out how to handle it. So a lot of the women say, oh, my sleep is pretty good. Like I go to bed at a decent time and, I just don't know why I can't fall asleep, or I get to bed at a decent time and I wake up in the middle of the night. There are some things when we start actually breaking down sleep hygiene. Like, so what's the temperature of your room? Do you have your room set to 60 to 67 degrees? That's ideal sleep temperature. You need that temperature drop for your body to sleep well. So use a fan, breathable sheets, cooling mattress toppers. There are so many night sweat pajamas out there now. I like the Soma Cool Nights pajamas. What else have I tried? Tommy John has a couple pajama. Even Target sells very thin pajamas that I love to pick up, especially when there's like a cute one or they're on sale, because they're thin, they're movable fabric, they're not thick and itchy. Flannel pajamas have gone the way of the dinosaurs in my house. So making sure that your room is cool is so important. Night sweats thrive in warm rooms. It's just another way to prevent being warm. Some people think that taking a shower or a bath right before bed helps them calm down. And that might be true, but it increases your body temperature. And there's a natural drop in body temperature about an hour to two before bedtime. So if you are getting in a hot bath or you are taking a hot shower within an hour of bedtime, you are screwing with your body temperature. And that might affect your sleep. So sometimes even just shifting it to right after dinner or shifting it to before dinner, if you're a nighttime shower person, that might actually help you with your sleep routine. About an hour to two before bed, we need to dim the lights. Our bodies need to think it's night. When we were cavemen and we lived outside, our body ran on a circadian rhythm. We were awake in the morning and we were asleep at night, unless we were the protective crew that stayed up at night, which is another thing that people don't even talk about. There are actual rhythms in our body that we're just inclined to be, and some people are night people and some people are morning people. I think it's called a chronotype or something. I have to remember this, but I remember reading somewhere about chronotypes and how it stems all the way back to cavemen, and how cavemen there were two different groups. There were the people that were awake during the day. They did the hunting and gathering. There were the people that were awake at night and they kept everybody safe. And so that might, in theory, it's been a long time, but I don't know, might actually play some role in what our chronotype is. Like, are we a morning person or a night owl? Maybe. But if we need to sleep at night, we need to set the stage for nighttime. So an hour to two before bed, dim your lights. If you don't have a light dimmer, turn off half of the lights in your house. But all the artificial light that we have in our homes and on our screens is completely killing our sleep routine. So, don't use the blue light. They delay melatonin production. So if you're on your phone, if you're on your computer, you're on your laptop, and you have a lot of blue light being emitted, if you're not using a blue light blocker, your body's not going to produce melatonin. Melatonin is a naturally produced hormone in the body to tell you it's bedtime.
Let's take a quick pause, because if you've been loving these conversations and you're ready to take things deeper, I have something special just for you. The Women Mastering Midlife community is open for enrollment, and it's better than ever. This is your space for real, whole person midlife wellness. We focus on 5 pillars: movement, nutrition, lifestyle, stress management, and rest, because midlife health is so much more than just workouts or what's on your plate. Inside the community, you'll get strength training programs that actually fit your life. No 5 a.m. workouts required. Weekly accountability check-ins, meal plans, recipe guides, live group coaching with me, a private forum where you're never alone, and direct access to message me whenever you need support. Normally, it's just $29 a month. That's less than a single personal training session. But because you're part of this podcast family, I've got a gift for you. Use the code PODCAST5 at checkout and you'll get $5 off every month, making it just $24 a month to join us. You'll find the promo code and the link to register right in the show notes, so it's super easy to get started. Come join us and step into midlife feeling strong, supported, and unstoppable.
So that's why if you ever take melatonin to help you sleep, you should take about an hour before bedtime. When you're setting your stage for your bed physically, if weighted blankets help you with anxiety or with nervousness or racing thoughts, try adding a weighted blanket. Some women love the comfort and the pressure and support. Some women find it to be so hot and miserable that they can't even fathom. I have to sleep. I don't have a body pillow, but I have to have a pillow on my side. And sometimes I'll stick my leg over it. When I had back surgery and I had to sleep on my back, I couldn't sleep on my stomach anymore. It was one of the hardest habits to get into, not sleeping on my back, on my belly. And so now I kind of can, but every time I do, I kind of wake up with a crick in my back, I can tell. But there's a lot of women who find comfort in pressure of a weighted blanket and the support of a body pillow. If that makes it easier for you to sleep, give it a try. We also need to talk about balancing your blood sugar to sleep better. So blood sugar swings at night equate to cortisol spikes. And the cortisol spikes equate to mid-sleep, midnight wake-ups. So sugary snacks, alcohol, refined carbohydrates before bedtime are going to cause a spike in your blood sugar after you eat it and then a crash. And that crash could happen in the middle of the night. Also, making sure that you have enough protein, me and my protein horse, me and my protein soapbox, enough protein, healthy fats, and fibers at dinner. If you have a dinner that has healthy fat, fiber, and protein, you will be satiated longer. Your blood sugar will be regulated, so you won't have those spikes and crashes. You also won't become hypoglycemic at night. If you become hypoglycemic at night, that increases your cortisol release. So low blood sugar, pumping out some cortisol. We have to keep thinking of our bodies like our bodies have not evolved. We're still cavemen. Our bodies have not evolved with technology as fast as the world has. So we're still in like your blood sugar is low, you're starving, you need to find food. Wake up, somebody get food. We're gonna starve to death. Those are all cues that are in our body. So if you wake up hungry, I think eating at night, I'm not going to get on the fasting high horse, but I do think that not eating from dinner to breakfast or not eating overnight is important for your overall health. But if you're waking up in the middle of the night starving or your belly's rumbling, something like that, have a small spoonful of butter, almond butter, not butter, peanut butter, almond butter, any kind of nut butter, slices of turkey, anything that is healthy fat or protein. Keep it simple. Don't overdo it. But that can help you be able to go back to sleep and stay asleep. I was reading something or I was watching something. There was a woman who didn't even realize she was getting up and getting a spoonful of peanut butter at night. And then when they moved or something, there were all these spoons under the mattress. If you know what I'm talking about, comment to this or tell me that you've seen that. I feel like I'm losing my mind, but I just remember that there was a woman with all these spoons under her bed. They couldn't find spoons in the house. So those are some ways that we can help regulate our blood sugar. There are some mind-body practices that do really, really work. Let's do some mindfulness-based stress reduction. There was a 2021 study published in the Menopause Journal that mindfulness-based stress reduction significantly improves sleep quality and reduces insomnia in perimenopausal women. So doing some mind-body work, meditating, journaling, having a journal by your bed. I have a journal that just on the front of it says brain dump. And I have it by my bed whenever I've been consistently waking up with a lot of thoughts. And it's just a nice way to put it all down. Like, I'm going to write it all down and I'm going to forget about it. And then it's tomorrow's problem when I wake up. That can be really, really helpful when your mind is like completely spiraling, because I don't know about you, but if I start thinking, then I'm ruminating, and then all of a sudden I'm like all over the place in my thoughts. So, just to prevent that swirl of emotion and thought in your head, try journaling. See if that helps. Doing some yoga, doing a meditation where you do a body scan from head to toe. I remember in my integrative women's health coaching retreat, we did a body scan, and we started at the very top of our head, like all the way at the tippy top with our hairs. And we felt the stress drain out of our body from our hair to our forehead, to our eyebrows, and we could actually feel those body parts releasing. I have 11s like nobody's business because of my furrowing and my heavy thinking that I do all the time. And if I just would let that all go and release it, maybe I wouldn't feel the need for Botox. But it is something that can be very helpful. Also, just deep breathing. Box breathing, I will say a million times. I tell my clients, there are many different ways to think about breathing. And there are many different breath work exercises. I have breath work guides with many different types of breath work you could try. But having those techniques either on an app that you can follow or just an easy count in your mind will really help you. I'm a fan of box breathing. If it helps the Navy SEALs, it's got to help me. Some people love wearing sleep trackers. Some people love keeping sleep journals. And I do actually, if I have clients that are having a hard time with sleep, we do journal. Like, let's talk about what your nighttime routine is, write it down. And then let's talk about your sleep. Like in between our calls, write down how your sleep was, how much sleep you got. If you woke up in the middle of the night, was it to go to the bathroom and then you could go right back to sleep? Were you up thinking all night? Keeping a journal can be very helpful to observe patterns. Sometimes if you get a Fitbit, an Oura Ring, I'm an Oura Ring junkie. I've had an Oura Ring since 2021. I love seeing the data, but I will tell you that the last 6 weeks, my sleep has been complete and utter garbage. And it is so defeating to open up your Oura Ring and see that you got like a 62 on your sleep. And it would say, maybe time for a power nap, or it's okay, you'll do better tomorrow. And I know it's like supposed to be comforting and make you feel better, but for me, it just makes me feel like I'm failing one more thing. So if you're the type of person that loves knowing, like I love to see that my body temperature rises when I'm like in my cycle. So I have it attached to natural cycles. I have my Oura Ring synced to natural cycles, and it takes my basal temperature for me every day so that I can track my cycles because they're all over the place. And it's just nice to know for me, like my anovulatory cycles are getting more frequent, and I know when I ovulate based on my basal temperature. So those are some things that are kind of fun with the Oura Ring. But if you're somebody who obsesses, it's called orthorexia when you're actually obsessed with healthiness. If you're so obsessed with eating the right things all the time and doing the exercise and tracking all the metrics and biohacking and all the things, sometimes that can actually be a detriment and can actually affect your sleep a lot more. So if wearing a ring or a Fitbit or an iWatch is something that will cause you stress, don't do it. It's not worth it. I couldn't sleep in my iWatch. I prefer the ring because I can sleep in it. It doesn't bother me, but it will track your bedtime and your wake time. It'll track wake ups and triggers. You can leave notes on it. Like, oh, I woke up at 3 a.m. because I had to go to the bathroom, or I woke up at 2 with a hot flash, food and caffeine and alcohol intake. I can tell you, if I went back 2 years and looked at a random day, I could tell you if I drank because my sleep is so bad. My restorative deep sleep is trash. And, I see all that. And, like I said, it does track your menstrual cycle. It's also good to know, even though it's all over the place, I can tell when my body temperature is high after I ovulate or when I'm waiting to get my period. I know my HRV, which is my heart rate variability, will be down. And I know that my sleep quality will be poor. And that's just part of my cycle. So it's not that I'm trying to control, it's that I'm trying to recognize patterns. So if you can journal or wear a Fitbit or Oura Ring or iWatch or something like that to track, as long as you know this is not going to control your sleep, but it is just to become aware of your patterns, it might be something that's helpful to you. And then I don't know about you, but after I started recognizing the direct correlation between alcohol intake and crummy sleep, I sit there and I look like, is this glass of champagne at dinner worth not sleeping tonight? And sometimes it is, but most of the time it's not. So those are some things that are empowering to know. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is actually one of the last things I'm going to talk about, because I think I'm done and then I'm going to keep going. But one of the last things I'll talk about is hormone therapy. Like, we need to talk about when to consider it, right? So it is the most effective treatment for vasomotor symptoms. It is the gold standard. It improves your quality of sleep. It diminishes your hot flashes and your night sweats. If you are under age 60 and within 10 years of your final period and you don't have any contraindications, hormone therapy is for you. Now, as we get away from the WHI study, more studies are being done on estrogen therapy. More physicians feel comfortable monitoring patients on a person-to-person basis, and they don't feel like they're putting themselves at risk or their patients at risk. There are doctors who will step outside of those guidelines variably on a person-to-person basis and monitoring the heck out of everything. But you really don't want to be more than 10 years outside of the onset of menopause, because there's a lot of atherosclerosis that happens with the decline, with this ceasing of production of estrogen when you hit menopause, that adding estrogen can actually be harmful and not helpful. So knowing that as a cutoff is really important. So if you are a couple years out of menopause and you're like, gosh, I've been putting off hormone therapy, I've been hearing it's not safe, but now I'm not sure, talk to a knowledgeable menopause provider. It's personalized medicine. It's not one size fits all. This is one of the things that I love about menopause care, is it's so nuanced and it's so individualized. And this is probably why we didn't learn about it in pharmacy, because in pharmacy school and therapeutics, there were guidelines and there were charts. If your LDL is this and you don't have these contraindications, you start on this statin at this dose at bedtime for 6 weeks, run labs, adjust accordingly, right? Like, there were guidelines, there was structure, there were graphs and charts and numbers and metrics. And with hormone therapy, that's not the case. And so that's part of the reason why it's so hard for physicians and other care providers to figure out how to treat women, especially in perimenopause, with hormones. But even just adding progesterone nightly. And I know sometimes they'll start you with progesterone cyclically to help with irregular periods or heavy bleeding. But a lot of us could just use the progesterone every single night to help with sleep and mood and anxiety. So if that's something that you're interested in, talk to your care provider. This is not medical advice. I am not your pharmacist. I am just putting it out there for you to be an advocate and say, hey, I was listening to this crazy woman on a podcast and she talked about taking progesterone every night for sleep, and I'm interested in it. Or go to your local pharmacist and see if they can help you navigate talking to your doctor. Cognitive behavioral therapy is something that people have toyed around with for sleep. It's also another non-hormone therapy for vasomotor symptoms and other symptoms of menopause. I am not a cognitive behavioral therapist. I am not a sleep therapist. So I don't know how the treatment works. I do know that in chronic insomnia, cognitive behavioral therapy is a first-line treatment. And chronic insomnia is diagnosed. There's a certain number of months that you've gone without sleep. And I don't remember. I read, Dr. Shelby wrote a book about midlife women and sleep. And it is so insightful and it is so helpful. And if you don't follow her on Instagram, I highly recommend her for sleep. But I would take a look at what chronic insomnia is. It may not be all women who are having sleep trouble, but a chronic insomnia diagnosis typically can be treated first line with CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy. So find a CBTI therapist. There's digital platforms like Sleepio. CBTI Coach is an app that you can look at, see if those can help you, but also seek help outside of that. Check out Dr. Shelby's Instagram page. She has great information about sleep. But, at the end of the day, this is just one more wrench in the cog of life. And I feel like sleep is so critical, and there's so much talk about sleep, and sleep is the foundation, and sleep is the base of the pyramid. And if we don't fix our sleep, we can't fix our life. And that is so true. But you know what? There is nothing more defeating and frustrating than hearing all these people talk about how important sleep is. And no matter what you do, you have trouble sleeping, right? Like then you start to feel like, am I broken? What's wrong with me? Or you're trying to completely reinvent the wheel. We are creatures of habit. We are old dogs at this point. And if you've had a sleep routine that may not be the healthiest, for a really long time, it might be hard to break some patterns. So I always tell my clients, small changes can make a big difference. If you can only start with, let's cool the room down. Let's open a window. Let's turn on the air conditioning. Let's keep our room at 67. I think ours is 66. I think my bedroom is 66 degrees. And I open a window because I like it freezing. If you want to stretch for a couple minutes before bed, if you can turn off your phone 30 minutes before you used to, if you can swap a glass of wine for a cup of chamomile tea, if you can do breathwork exercises before you go to bed, if you can read a book instead of watching a television show, like what are some small changes that you can make today to try to adjust your sleep habits? And remember to give yourself grace. You are not broken. This is perfectly normal. This is hormonal. It's very common. With the right tools, with the right awareness, with the right support, you can get help. You can have better days than others. Remember that this is a phase, that you're not alone, that your body is changing, and you're learning how to take care of it. So until next week, focus on some sleep. Tell me if you've tried anything. Tell me what works for you. Tell me what doesn't. Find me on social media. Answer this, comment on the podcast. I want to know. What small change did you make that impacted and made a big difference when it came to your sleep habits?
Thank you for listening to this episode of Women Mastering Midlife. If something you heard today resonated, I'd be so grateful if you'd share it with a friend who might need a little extra support on her midlife journey. Remember, small changes can make a big difference, and you don't have to navigate this transition alone. We will be back next week with more expert guidance and compassionate conversations to help empower you to master midlife on your terms. Until then, you can find us on Instagram at Women Mastering Midlife, or come connect with me directly at Miss Victoria Byrd. And you're looking for deeper connection and support, be sure to join us in the Women Mastering Midlife community. We'd love to continue the conversation with you there. If you've enjoyed this episode, please rate and review this podcast. It helps us reach more amazing women mastering midlife just like you. You'll find all the links from today's episode and ways to connect in the show notes below. See you next time.